Today we're going to be doing some transfers in a SAB, a still air box. So let me just show you and talk through what's on the table. Mask and gloves on the left. 2 rows, I'm using small honey pots, other people will use agar dishes. One can talk about the advantages, disadvantages of these. Anyway, today I'm using these small honey jars. And on the right here, 1 bottle with 70% alcohol and the other bottle water, tap water, with just a little bit of bleach in, and I put a little bit of bleach because my water comes from a well and has not been chlorinated. If your tap water has been chlorinated, a little bit of soap would be adequate. Behind that, some wipes, and as you can see, a blowtorch, and in the corner here, the metal scalpel. Right, I'll start going through the actual process now. This is a marble top which I've already cleaned, and I'm going to be taking 70% alcohol. I've just got alcohol ménager, in French, household alcohol cleaner. 70% works better than 100%. So, first off, I'm spraying my gloves. I'm spraying up my arms. I've got my face mask on. Now this is important to remember, that what we're doing here is not sterilising. Alcohol doesn't sterilise, it sanitises, no doubt kills off lots of stuff, but this is not sterile. I've been screwing up on this for about a year now, so I've probably made just about all the mistakes one can make. In the past I didn't wipe the jars down because I thought the alcohol would be sterilising them, but it's only sanitising. So you need to make everything really, really clean. Also at this stage, think in terms of how you're going to actually do the job once you're inside, which means, what I'm saying is, put your jars in the best place, put your plates, whatever you're going to be working with, in the positions that you're going to be able to access them most easily afterwards. I know my hand's going to be coming in, opening this jar, putting a lid down, then coming across to here to pick these up, and I'm going to be wanting to put these out of my way afterwards over here. So think out what you're going to do and put all this stuff in a kind of comfortable layout. Think ahead what you're going to do. Alright, now this is my SAB, and I'll be showing you a little bit about my SAB before actually going ahead with the transfers. To say that I actually personally do not wipe the inside of my SAB down every time. I know it's fairly clean. When I spray everywhere, I think that anything that's caught on the edge will end up staying on the edge, so I'm not too concerned about making that completely sanitised. So this is my SAB made out of a simple plastic box. There's techniques about how to do this online all over the place. I've got a couple of little personal modifications. When I burned these holes out using a tin can, imagine that's a tin can. It's a gas chamber, so that you wouldn't heat this up. Do not heat these tins up. Imagine this is a tin can. You can heat this up in a flame and you just kind of burn the thing out. And I picked up the bits that I'd burnt to cut out. I put a screw in here, which actually means that I can close this off while I'm moving in front of it to prevent air from going in. So that's one of my personal little things. And I made this little peephole because sometimes I found I really couldn't see in through the top. And so sometimes in desperation I'd flip this to one side so I could actually see straight into the space. That's where it's obviously important to have the mask on, because otherwise you'd be blowing air in there. Right, so what's in there now has all been sanitised, cleaned, and the magic bit now is actually cleaning the air inside of there with a fine spray. So this is where I have my very, very fine spray. Make sure it's a good fine spray. The quality of the spray is obviously important if you understand the theory. We're not just kind of making it wet for fun. We're actually cleaning the air down. So I normally come in on this side and I spray everywhere, knowing that I'm creating air currents that are causing turbulence and bringing my... Now I can actually close this off, open this one up and spray all over the place. The more I spray, the more the air in there is becoming clean. It's as simple as that. Now sometimes, having sprayed everywhere, the top is so misty I can't really see properly. So making sure that my gloves are sanitised. And just to make it clear, I'm even going to wipe them. And slowly I put my hand in. Again, this is a personal thing, and I clean the droplets off. And talking about the theory, my hand in there can move around quite, all the air's clean, no air's going in or out of this box. So, you know, when people talk about slow, careful movements, yes, but everything in there is clean anyway. The danger now is, when I take my hand out, it's pulled in all the dirty air from outside. So I spray again, knowing that in there is already quite clean, but I'm going to spray again, spraying only at the lower levels in order to make the air clean, but the top has been wiped and I've been careful not to spray back onto the top again. Right, so that can give me a little moment of pause. I'm kind of ready to go, and the next step I'll be flading my scalpel and going inside the sab. And most videos that you see will be shown from like inside the sab, but my aim today isn't to show how one's cutting out the sections, because all that's shown very, very clearly elsewhere. What I'm doing here is showing you that I'm sanitising everything, gloves, that's where these little traps here are, because this is giving me time to move around without dirty air filtering back in there. So I've sprayed the scalpel, touching my gas lamp. I know this hand is becoming kind of dirty again, it's becoming contaminated. I'm aware of that. I take great care here not to set light to the alcohol. About one time in 3 or 4 I end up setting light to the alcohol on the scalpel, setting light to my gloves and having to wave all this in the air in order to put the flame out. Be careful that you are mixing alcohol with flames, and a lot of people have accidents with this. People have accidents because they mix what I'm doing here as well to some extent, chlorine with bleach. And if you do this in large quantities you can create chloroform. And in my left hand it's still slightly dirty, but the right hand is moving the scalpel in there, and my hands are going in, so they're pushing clean air out, and they're not drawing any new dirty air in. So I'm careful not to move my hands in and out of the space. The scalpel came in here red hot. I'm grabbing the pot from which I transfer, and I'm putting this as far away from the entrance as is comfortable, so that I won't be moving over the top of it. I come to the pot I'm transferring into. I take the top off. I dip my scalpel into the side of the jar here and cut slightly across. Leave it here for a couple of seconds to be sure that it's cooled down. I go beyond now to cut a small wedge from the transfer and transfer that into the new jar. Put the top on, and this is one of the joys of honey jars, that I don't have to tape that or anything. I put that to one side. I've got my second honey jar. Open the top, it's very easy to open. I found that mason jars, conservative jars, often the top starts getting blocked and you have a fight inside your tub to get the second transfer. I was going to say, to get the tops off. I had a lot of contamination in the early days using metal lids, and I'm aware that they were simply far more complicated, and so if you end up having a fight to get the lid off your jar, you're almost certainly going to be bringing your arms in and out of the tub and picking up content. In all of these movements I'm trying to avoid putting either my hands, gloves, hands, gloves, scalpel over top of the jars. Sometimes it's sort of, well, obviously you can't avoid this totally, but you don't want to be having stuff going over the top. There, whoopee, that's 3 transfers I've done from the same jar into 3 other jars. I'm putting the next set of transfers into position now, so that when I come back into this tub I'm not going to have to be doing a lot of this moving around which I'm doing now. The first thing is moving around, everything inside the tub has now got its lids on, so I'm placing the jar to be transferred from in a comfortable position, making sure the other 3 jars here are easily accessible, so that when I come back into this I'm not going to have to be moving around a lot. So the air in here is still quite clean. I draw my hands out slowly, and to give myself a pause I close the thing down and I can take a break. When I come back to this, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking my water spray again. I can do that right away now, and to spray all around again. I won't be spraying back up to the top in order not to have water droplets all over the top, but as you can see I'm spraying so vigorously, and I say this is the magic thing about this. It's this spray which is simply just like rain falling through the air, picking up all those little droplets of spores that might have gone in there and making them basically fall down. Some of them, of course, are falling on top of the jars of the lids. We have to be aware of that. We don't want water running off the top of our lids into the jars. Obviously those things, if we're just very, very careful about what we're doing, if we're aware of what we're doing, we can avoid lots of mistakes. So, I now come back into the sterilising my gloves routine, and I'll be going through all this again. But I won't bother to explain what I'm doing now because it's exactly the same as what I just did. So that's basically my use of the sub. And there you go. When I finished this next set of transfers, I'm just going to be lifting the tub off and wiping everything down, labelling it. And I hope this has been helpful to you. Have a nice day. Stay safe.